the government point of view. It's just spend it because we have it sitting here, or we just had it shipped over to us from China in digits. So, I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
Really, the only summit you want in Washington isn't a job summit, but a how Washington can get out of the way of jobs kind of summit. So they had it backwards.
Leave us alone. Just leave us alone. Okay. Let me go to Charles Payne. Is Charles there?
I'm here.
Because I know you've got to go and you hit the Cavuto show on the Fox Business Network. Bigger name. I know. I get it.
Well, I'm going to host this show, so I'm kind of excited about it.
Oh, are you really?
Yeah.
Well, I'll have to watch. I'll have to watch.
Okay.
Anything to add before you leave?
Everything that you guys are talking about, you're giving the administration credit as if they're really thinking that this is going to work. I think they designed this, and everything you guys have brought up, they're too smart to not understand what you're saying. For me, this whole thing is about control, but it's also a slap in the face to say you're going to invite 6 or 7 unions, a couple of leftist think tanks, and 2 green. Well, who's the Green Bank, and how many jobs have they created, all for the small business? This is about control, and they understand the dangers and the risk, but they want to take it.
Charles, do you see anything here, or do you see anything on the horizon that you say, just if it goes through, just not going to recover from it?
It could be health. It could be the health care reform. It could certainly be cap and trade. And I think, obviously, if we do all of the above, I'm worried. I believe in America so much and so passionately that somehow I think we can recover from almost anything. But, Glenn, the trifecta of things that they have coming down this road at us is amazing. It's going to be hard to overcome.
All right. If you had any doubt at all on the impact on America from small business, take a look at this. You have it? I wish you could join us during the commercials. We're having a fabulous conversation. Back with our own Jod Summit with our panelists, and also on the phone is Wendy in West Virginia. Hello, Wendy.
Hello.
How are you?
Oh, fine.
What's up?
Okay, actually, my company is out of West Virginia. I'm out of Pennsylvania.
Okay.
But I am a manager, and I'll tell you what, I have had so many people come apply because we're opening up a new store downtown where I live, and all they want is 1 or 2 days a week because they want to collect the unemployment. I'm not going to hire somebody like that. People need to get on a plane where they don't take from the government, they don't take anything. They really need to just get out and work.
You know, that's kind of what we were, Wendy, thanks for your call. That's kind of what we were talking about earlier about extending unemployment. It seems compassionate, but Ben Franklin said the best way to get people out of their poverty is make them uncomfortable in it.
That's right. Well, and the other part of this plan that's not up on the board there, Glenn, is the Economic Policy Institute said, no, we need to adopt the policies of Europe where they're actually going to reduce the number of hours you work, but keep your pay the same. That was debated yesterday in the Jobs Summit.
Coming down the pike is the census. You know, they have to count everybody in next spring. And so they're going to hire 1.4 million people, put them on government payroll, let them do a little work, and then a lot of them will qualify for unemployment insurance. So it's what this lady is talking about.
Oh, my gosh. I want to go kind of back to the conversation that we had off the air just a little bit. I had a conversation with a friend of mine who is a big investment guy, and he's done very well for himself. And he said, you know, for the first time in my life, I don't know what to do, and I'm actually afraid of what's coming because I can't invest in anything. I can't recommend to anybody invest in anything. He said, I buy companies, I fix them, I get them really running well, and I sell them. He said, there's no way out. There's no way out here. I don't know that the government's not going to change the rules on me. Don't know if they're going to absorb this industry. I don't know, you know, what the game plan is.
It's an open-ended tax hike. So if you say 3 years from now, could the tax rate on that business be 40%, 50%, 60%? You'd have to nod and say, well, that's possible. And so how can you ever run the numbers or make a long-term investment?
But if the government said, we're not going to raise taxes on small businesses, do I wouldn't.
First, no
Would any of you guys believe that you were not going to get it someplace else?
No.
We have a case in point, though, just in next year. In 2010, the law says the tax rates are going to go up a lot on small business and on high-income earners. So will they even say they're going to stop that? No.
That would be a form of stimulus that would be one of the best things I can think of for creating jobs, would be to let the existing tax cuts stay in place. You don't have to invent new ones. You don't have to come up with reinventing the wheel. Just let the existing tax cuts stay in place and create stability.
It would be the only time that we would hear, haven't heard this one for a while, have you, America? It's too expensive. Right. That's the only time we'll have heard that.
But the whole credit markets, when you're talking about your friend in investments, it is having a really stifling effect on capital formation in allowing new enterprise to start up. It starts at the banks. Their lending standards are so much more strict than they used to be that works its way back to the secondary and tertiary funders of young companies, and then that works its way all the way back to the angel rounds or the seed money. Those people won't put money in companies if they can't see a growth path and even an exit strategy.
Right.
So they won't start. And when they do offer to start, they're demanding such huge returns that it dilutes the original founder, the creator of the business, to such a level that it removes his enthusiasm.
Back in just a minute. We're back with our own job summit with our panelists, and we were just talking on the air. I was with 35,000 people 2 weeks ago, and I said, how many, to preserve liberty for your children or grandchildren, how many people would go through what our grandparents did with the Great Depression, live a tough lifestyle? All raise their hand. But I think we're going to miss this opportunity. We're training people to be dependent.
Yeah. Well, Glenn, I don't disagree with that at all, but here we are at this moment in time in this country. And as I mentioned off the air, I had the book, The 5,000-Year Leap, in my hands, which you did the foreword to, and I was reading it before I got the call to come up today to be here with you. I think this president is in a position, one of the favorite Bible stories at our house is the story of Esther, and she was put in a position for such a time as this. And ladies and gentlemen in America, I think this is, for such a time as this, we need to wake up, we need to mobilize, we need to understand where they're taking us, and we can save this. We talked about stability with business people. What about stability in the labor markets? Number 8 on that list, going back to the so-called Employee Free Choice Act, has a provision that says after 90 days of negotiation, a federal bureaucrat will impose conditions of employment and working conditions on a private business. How in the world can a businessman who doesn't know what the regulatory regime is going to be, the tax regime is going to be, and now can't even determine what the conditions of employment for his employees are going to be? This is outrageous, and I think, as Charles said, they're too smart to understand that this is not going to destroy things as opposed to grow things.
I think they do. I mean, when you have Andy Stern saying, you know, workers of the world unite, that's not just a slogan. I mean, is there anybody at this table that doesn't understand workers of the world unite, where that came from?
Heard that before.
Yeah, I've heard that before. It didn't end well. 50 million dead.
One of Andy Stern's old friends, Bruce Rayner at Unite, the Needle Threads Union, in 2003, they were launching a corporate campaign on a company with 17,000 employees who didn't want to join a union. And he stood up in front of a throng of union officials and union militants and said, it's going to be a financial loser for this union, but it's the right thing to do to break the back of this company. Does that sound like someone who wants to create jobs?
Wow.
Not on
let me go to the phone call we had in Minnesota. It's Chris in Minnesota. Chris, go ahead.
Hi, Glenn. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
I just had a little comment on the unemployment. It's a little ignorant on the part of the government to say he's helping me with extending unemployment benefits, because it basically means that he's going to be raising taxes on a business like yours, and you're the one doing the hiring, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't see how the logic works there.
You're looking for logic. You're coming to the wrong place. Are you employed or unemployed?
I am unemployed.
How long have you been unemployed?
About 10 months now.
And what is your 10 months? And what is your incentive to get a job?
Absolutely zero. I mean, it's ridiculous.
How long can your benefits last?
How long can your benefits last, Chris?
I think it's 99 weeks, meaning nearly 2 years. So he's 10 months in, but the federal government has kept doing these extensions, so he might go a lot longer.
Be right back. Final thought.
Glenn, we're at a critical point. Government's gotten so big that it can control too much. So I think people have to speak up.
We're at this point, America. I really think that you don't understand why Hillary Care was more popular than Obamacare is, and yet they're still going through. They're more afraid of their union partners and everybody else than they are of you. We'll see you next week. Thank you for joining us tonight from New York. Good night, America.